everybody. Today I am going to talk about the supplies that you need if you're going to be unschooling. Now, these are supplies that every homeschooler can benefit from having, but I like to think about the supplies that an unschooler might use because we don't always think about how you'd stock your home if you're an unschooler because tend to use curriculum very sparingly and tend toward using more real life types of things and toys and stuff like that. So what kind of supplies might you include in your home if you are an unschooler? So let's talk about that. So the supplies I'm going to talk about are for kids up to about age 12. After age 12, supplies are really more the same as you might give an adult. An adult, what kind of tools does an adult use? That is a great way of thinking about it for a teenager. They're going to use grown-up tools. But for younger kids, obviously you don't want them using grown-up tools for learning. So this is the kind of stuff that I've always tried to stock my house with. So let's get going. So first of all, I like to use a lot of recycled materials and craft supplies, art supplies, books, and things like that. So I like to make sure I have a lot of file folders. I have a milk crate, at least one. These are great for the file folders, especially, are great for making your own homemade games. Perfect, especially if you include some index cards. You get some of those, 10-sided dice and fun stuff like that. And they're also good for organizing, and a milk crate is great for organizing projects too. Of course, you cover it up with different things and it can become something else that is more of a pretend tool. But for you, it's great to help organize things. So, and the next thing that I like to include is a compass and protractor, and not for geometry. I mean, that would be for an older kid, right? So for younger kids, a compass and protractor can help them be able to make perfect circles, stars, and rectangles. And they like to have that. I mean, you're going to need that for some kinds of things that they're going to want to make. You can use that for little counters. It can be used for the shapes for cookies or money or cards or other kinds of things that they want to make. Game pieces. So it's nice to have something that will help them be able to do that. If you have some kind of other tracing tool, great. One of my other favorite tools is Wiki Sticks. I mean, that's a brand name, but those wax covered pieces of yarn or string, those are just wonderful because along with clay, they can be used a lot of different ways. Very creatively, but also as a way to create like 3D models of things that are harder for kids to understand sometimes. And they're less messy than the Play-Doh type of stuff, and they don't really leave lots of crumbly mess. The wax can kind of get on things a little bit, but they're much cleaner and easier to clean up. I really like those. But clay is better if you're going to be making landforms, 3D maps. You're going to make models of like buildings or just different kinds of figures. My kids like to make intricate designs on like their own little play food and creative bowls and pottery and stuff like that for their dolls or as objects that they might sell in their stores, things like that. So the clay is very it's very versatile, so that's something nice to have around. But be careful about which kind you get so you don't have the stain problem or they leave it out and it all dries up and then it feels like a waste. So just be careful which kind that you buy. The next thing that I like to keep around are children's magazines, audiobooks, kids storytelling CDs, and podcasts. And that's because I always had an enforced quiet time. And if you're not doing this, I highly recommend it. Kids need rest even if they're not going to do it themselves. They need to rest and you need the break. So having a quiet time and then having something for them to listen to or read during that time that can enrich them in some way. Quality storytelling, quality podcasts, and things that are created for kids can really help to make that time fruitful for them and helps keep them in their rooms, if not on their beds, doing something quiet that is constructive, that isn't going to bother you. And it also makes for a much better car ride if you're traveling for far and you don't want to keep having them watch movie after movie in the car. So those are some other alternatives that way too. And as they get older, you can get things like Popular Mechanics or Make Magazine, and they have projects and things in there that can be really great for young people to try, and especially with the help of an adult. So you can have those kinds of things, or like Crochet Magazine or things. They often have advanced projects, but some of the projects are easier for beginners too. So you get some new ideas and inspiration. Um, then I also include a lot of craft supplies. So I'll have wood scraps, and you can get wood scraps from a lot of different places and not have to pay for them. I mean, you can pay for them at a craft store, but you can also go to places like Home Depot or Lowe's or places like that, or Lumberyard, and they're always trimming the wood, and all they're going to do is just throw that wood away. So you can ask them if they have any wood scraps, and sometimes they'll give them to you for free. So very often they'll give them to you for free. So you can do that. Um, Carpentry tools that are sized to their hand, but that are real tools, not those plastic play tools, but ones that are sturdy that they can use to actually screw things in and nail things on and stuff like that. And even having like subscriptions for things like that can really encourage their hand-eye coordination and also just a feeling of accomplishment and skill, and they learn something valuable that way. It encourages that. A Dremel tool, if they're a little bit older, can also do the same thing. My son has had a Dremel tool for some time. He's currently 14. Um, he's the youngest one. Um, he uses his Dremel tool to make scale models of different historic weapons. But your son or daughter, you can make some really nice, finely detailed objects and useful things with a Dremel tool. Sewing supplies, we've always had sewing supplies around. You can make things for dolls, you can make things to sell at craft fairs, you can repair your own clothes, make clothes for yourself, all kinds of wonderful things. And it's a useful tool. Again, doing these kinds of things helps give kids confidence in themselves and their abilities, and that's really important, that they build that on real skill. They can also make Christmas presents that way too, and gifts for their friends. Paints, pastels, watercolors, and the nice paper that goes with those are also some great things to keep around as your budget allows. Having the nice paper really really improves the feel that kids have when they're using those kinds of art supplies, because if you're just putting them on regular white typing paper, it's just not the same, and you want them to really appreciate those kinds of art supplies and use them correctly so they get the best results. And other kinds of random things, beads, buttons, felt, yarn, cloth scraps, and you can often get bags of cloth scraps also at the sewing stores, because they're always trimming stuff also, and they just keep those around, and they'll sell you a whole big bag for $5 or something, and you can make a lot of projects with those. So some other kinds of random things, depending on your budget, your children, your space. Some other things that we've had that have been really fun. We've had a 3D pen that helps expose kids to the ability to create sort of that 3D printing idea. And there are videos and things online of people doing amazing work with these 3D pens. Those can be an inspirational thing. And it allows for three-dimensional building on a much more sophisticated level. So I wouldn't recommend that for a 5-year-old, but somebody who's more like 9 or 10 might be able to handle a tool like that, and it really can be very satisfying because you can make things really detailed in a three-dimensional manner. Old sheets, boxes, old oversized clothes, you can get these things easily for free or at resale stores, and of course they just lend themselves to hours of pretend play, obviously. Duct tape. I wouldn't think of that necessarily. Get it in a bunch of different colors. Not only can you make crafts themselves out of duct tape, but duct tape is useful for taping together the boxes and hanging up things to just enhance what they're doing. It's a nice thing to have around. And other things like Connects, Legos, Zone tools, that type of stuff. Building tools are just always nice to have around, and lots of other types of open-ended toys, but they can help, just like some of the other things I discussed, they can help bring learning to life, things that you're learning in books and in videos, bring those things to life, but they also help with the eye-hand coordination and just the dexterity. They help with three-dimensional thinking, problem solving, all kinds of things. They're just really good toys to have around. And the last two things, I mean, everybody should have a good pair of hiking shoes to get outside. There are so many benefits to spending time in the outdoors, beyond the learning opportunities, just for your health and wellness for you and your children. And perhaps the most important tool on every homeschooler supply list is a library card. Make sure you have that. Enjoy this list. Let me know if there's things that you would like to add to that I didn't mention, but that you think are really essential tools, besides maybe the obvious, like maybe a computer or a tablet. But please leave those in the comments, and be sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss any other videos. Make sure you look in the description for a link to a freebie that you can receive there. Thank you.